purpose of this statement will be twofold. I will talk to you, as the prosecutor did, about the charge, and I will talk to you about what we expect the proof to show in this case from Mr. Mercer's perspective. Let me repeat that what I say to you is not evidence, as the judge said. The evidence will come from the witness stand. The indictment, as you already know, of course, is not evidence. It's a way of bringing you and us into the courtroom to resolve this issue. Evidence comes from the witness stand. And one thing the prosecutor did not talk about was cross-examination. The key to the truth, members of the jury, comes from the cross-examination, the testing and challenging of what the witness says on direct examination. For instance, if Mr. Ferguson comes to the courtroom and says the things that the prosecutor indicated in her opening he will say, he will be challenged here in this courtroom. He will be challenged by prior things that he said, which are inconsistent with what the prosecutor says he's going to say on the witness stand. You want to know when somebody's testifying on the witness stand on direct examination, and you'll find out on the cross-examination whether he's personally profiting from what he's saying on the direct examination, whether he's receiving money as a result of what he's saying on a direct examination. This is the kind of thing you want to know in assessing whether that individual is telling you the truth. It's one thing to say it without an axe to grind, dispassionately, objectively. It's another thing to say it, members of the jury, when you're earning money from it, when you're advancing your own career. You'll also want to learn on the cross-examination, as I mentioned to you a moment ago, whether the witnesses have said something different on other occasions about this matter. That's the reason that the judge spoke to you about the cross-examination, and I emphasize it now. That's the reason we spoke to you many times about keeping an open mind in this matter. To wait till what you see on the cross-examination, to wait until the entire trial is over before you make up your minds or even begin to think about assessing what happened here. And you'll also decide this case not only on the proof here adduced by the prosecutor who has the burden of proof, but you'll also look, members of the jury, you'll see to the lack of proof. Because I expect that the proof in this case will be woefully inadequate. Let me say to you right now, I do not expect the prosecution to call the referee of the fight to the witness stand. The referee. Remember during the voir dire, on occasion you were asked questions about the referee? He's the man in the ring, members of the jury, with the two people. He's the man separating them during the clinches. You'll hear from the proof in this case. I don't expect they'll call the referee here to prove this case, members of the jury. And you'll conclude ultimately that that's a lack of proof. And there's a good reason why they're not going to call the referee, and I'll get to that in a moment or two. I want to make sure, however, you know what the charge is and what the charge is not. There's no charge here that anybody took a dive. There's no charge here that the wrong man won. There's no charge here that any money was passed to anybody. There's no charge here that the only thing going on in the ring was one fighter trying to distract the other fighter so that he can knock him out. This is a boxing match, for heaven's sake. One instant of distraction in the ring could result in the boxer losing the match by a knockout. You will hear that when Mercer fought Tommy Morrison sometime before this particular fight, you will hear that Mercer was losing that fight into the 4th or 5th round. And then all of a sudden, Mercer caught him with one punch and knocked him out. You will hear that it's common, normal in a boxing match for fighters to attempt to distract each other. either with their hands, by dancing, by gabbing, by talking, by mumbling. It happens all the time. It's normal in this business. So, the charge here is based on what occurred in the ring and not beforehand. The claim here is not that Mercer even went to Ferguson, whom he knew. Ferguson used to spar with Mercer prior to this, you will hear. Mercer didn't go. There's no claim, nor will there be any proof. That's why this case is so frivolous. Go to Ferguson beforehand and say, I'm out of shape. I run the risk of losing a lot of money. I can't beat you. I can't even move. Let me give you some money. In quiet, in secret, conspiratorially. That's how such a crime would have occurred. It's common sense you use when you assess this evidence, members of the jury. Common sense. Now, what the proof will show in the case is that the two people fought on February 6th, that Mercer was not good enough to beat Ferguson, and that Ferguson won the fight on points. The judges gave the fight to Ferguson. That is what the proof will show in this case. Was there an effort to distract by Mercer? Was there an effort to distract for purposes of knocking somebody out by Ferguson? Yes. Both fighters were making efforts to distract each other in this matter, just like in any other fight. Members of the jury, this charge is not only false, it is not only untrue, it is frightening what has occurred here. It's an abuse of power. You'll see from the proof in this case, it's just as frightening as the prosecutor indicting a mother for making a threat against her daughter or her son in the middle of an argument at home.
Counsel, a little more time.
Yes, sir. Think about this. You've got Mercer and Ferguson in the middle of the ring. You've got both people staring at cameras and mics. You've got the referee right next to both men. And both of them, you'll see from this videotape, can clearly see the cameras and the mics breathing all over them. And the charge is that Mercer is going to, on television, excuse me, not television, because this was not televised, was going to seriously offer Ferguson money. Members of the jury, Ferguson was doing, you will see from the real proof in this case, Ferguson was doing more talking in that ring than Mercer was, from the real proof in this case, when he gets on the witness stand. Now, Mercer, you know, has no burden of proof, but he's going to prove things to you anyway through us. Now, it's illegal to offer a bribe during a fight. The referee was right there. The prosecution claims it was on videotape, it was on tape. The proof will show that nobody went and reported any misconduct after this fight to the New York State Athletic Commission, which is the commission that regulates boxing in New York. The proof will show that Ferguson did not go and say what apparently he's claiming to be saying today, Mercer offered me a bribe, how awful. That the referee did not go and say, it's shocking what happened in the ring. This man, Mercer, was offering $100,000 to Ferguson. I'm reporting Mr. Mercer to you. Let's suspend him. Let's get him out. That the judges who were at the ringside did not make such a report against Mercer. That HBO, the people who were supposedly recording all this evidence, did not go and make such a report to the New York State Athletic Association. Members of the jury, it was the referee's job to be in charge of the fight. He made no such report. No such report. The reason he made no such report, and the reason that Ferguson made no such report, and the reason that no one made any such report is because it did not happen. Now, let me say this to you, and it's really one of the most important facts that's going to be proven in this case. The New York State Athletic Commission did begin an investigation of this matter. And I'm going to tell you when, because it's one of the most important facts in the case. It began an investigation of this matter 3 weeks after the fight, roughly. The fight was on February 6th. The so-called investigation by the New York State Athletic Commission began the end of February. We will put into evidence here, one way or the other, press releases from the New York State Athletic Commission showing when they began their investigation, when they first heard of the allegation that this occurred. There's a man by the name of Randy Gordon, who is the commissioner of the New York State Athletic Commission. And you will hear some testimony about this gentleman in this case. This is a man, members of the jury, who is seeking fame and notoriety. He started this investigation in late February, the beginning of March of 1993, as I say, by means of a press release. What did he do when he started it? He brought in the New York State Police to assist him in this investigation. Beginning of March, again, 3 weeks after the fight. Nobody made any report immediately after the fight to these people. They begin an investigation 3 or 4 weeks later. And I want you to pay particular attention during the course of the trial to that interim period between the fight, February 6, 1993, and the time the investigation is begun. We're talking here, according to the prosecution, about original tapes. Well, they're lying low. I want you to pay attention to what occurs here in this period of time. Because nothing occurred here the next day where people came forward and say, my God, look at these tapes. Ferguson started complaining. Indeed, let me tell you what occurred after the New York State Athletic Commission, through this guy, Gordon, made their announcement to the press in New York. Now, you know this case is somewhat newsworthy. And Mr. Mercer, you'll hear from the proof in this case, is the former Olympic champion of the world in the heavyweight division back in 1988. In other words, he's a very noteworthy person. When Gordon made the announcement that this matter was under investigation, people went and talked to Ferguson. Now, Ferguson's going to be a witness. I'm going to read to you something now that Ferguson said on television that he's going to be questioned about here. This is Ferguson's words on television on March 3, 1993, and he'll be questioned about it here. Quote, I came into the fight knowing that I can beat him. I trained for him well. I went out there and beat him. No bribe, no nothing. And I personally was going to call the New York State Athletic Commission myself and tell them that I ain't heard nothing about no money. That's the bottom line, end quote. That's Ferguson when this matter first broke. The prosecutor forgot to tell you about that. You'll hear that,